Good afternoon, everyone. So today I'm going to be talking about how Measurebyte reports internally. So a question was asked from one of our community members, how practically do we run reports? Obviously, I can't share client data, but I thought, well, now's a good opportunity to maybe share a few concepts and ideas and approach and a few data visualizations as to how we do it with a Measurebyte. So, this is going to be specifically to B2B, but I think there are obviously learnings in terms of frameworks, how you could do this for B2C or D2C, if that's your business or if that's one of your client businesses. Okay, so just the topics. We're going to just quickly recap last week's Measure Monday around the topic of leadership. And then we're going to move into B2B demand generation, what that is, comparing it to lead generation and what we've learned from that. KPIs and OKRs, how we use OKRs is really important and defines a lot of what we do. And then finally, finish off with a few data visualizations that we use on a daily basis. Okay, just to recap the leadership side of things, you remember if you attended last week's Measure Monday, I spoke about objectives and key results and how that ladders from your CEO down to your CMO, brand manager, and the technical person implementing the work. A lot of this is driven by objectives and key results and using red, amber, green to understand what good looks like or how you're doing against certain targets. And then I looked at how that really plays out in terms of reporting cadence and routines. So CEO, as an example, would be quarterly. They would look at this report quarterly because obviously there's a lot of time is required to gather this type of information. And then monthly campaigns, the CMO and brand managers will be looking at that. And then weekly campaign tactics and daily optimization, obviously done by the specialists. Okay, so that's in a nutshell what we spoke about last week. The question now is obviously how we do this, how we roll this out internally. Now, obviously, we're essentially a startup B2B company. I wear a lot of these hats. So I can't give you a report as to what the CEO looks like because I'm that. I'm also the CMO and I'm also the brand manager and I'm also the digital marketing manager. So so the view that you'll see today takes, I guess, the best part of this middle section, this middle manager. Next step, then we move into demand gen. So the idea there is, we learned a lot last year around lead generation and what that really meant for us to drive business. So the reality is we don't do lead gen, or it's not a focus at least. Obviously, we care about leads because leads result in sales, but the reality is we need focus. And where do we put our focus? So we want to, as Measurebyte, build the category awareness. If we can get the awareness, then obviously leads come. So demand generation has helped us refine our product market fit. A lot of the content that we put out there is really about listening to the types of questions that get asked, the comments that get said off that content. A lot of that helped us refine the product market fit, and ultimately it's helped the customer strategy. And the process has led us to be able to find more meaningful insights into what the customer actually really wants, because ultimately a business exists because of customers, right? So we want to create the demand. We don't want to capture the demand. Again, it's focus. It's about the focus. Obviously, we want to have lead gen, like I said, but it's about creating the demand up front. What is Measurebyte doing in our category? Who are those light category buyers who have pain points around data, around reporting? It's about creating that awareness. So you'll see a lot of our reporting captures the metrics that matter aligned to top of funnel measurement. Another key point, which I actually mentioned in a webinar on Friday to quite a big audience, is this mindset change. That bottom of the funnel performance is actually a sales function. And what that really means is, like in our world, a lot of us come from a performance background. I specifically come from a performance marketing background. We focus at the bottom of the funnel because that's what generates leads and then ultimately into sales. So if leads are going up, then performance marketing is working. But actually, is it really performance marketing? And I want to just challenge that thought. I think we need to just dwell on that for a bit, because it's critical that we start perhaps seeing ourselves, if we managing this area, are we not more of a sales function to the business? and the real marketing happens top of funnel. So that's the demand gen. So you have demand gen up on top, and you have the lead gen closer to sales at acquisition. And then you have advocacy, which is more about the customer. Product, loyalty, all that stuff comes into product experience. So creating loyal customers. So our marketing decision also, this is also a big one, starting to see a shift, especially in the US and Europe, where there's a shift away from multi-touch attribution, especially in the B2B space. It's really difficult to measure dark funnel or dark social, etc. And here's just two classic examples that's happened in the last week or two. One, how did you hear about this? So this is a form field on our website when they've inquired. How did you hear about us? A friend referred them. And another one via LinkedIn, who a person reached out. Multi-touch attribution, no software will be able to measure this and attribute it to the right content. Okay, so we've moved away from that. A lot of all our reporting, that we don't report on multi-touch for these types of reasons. Then another piece, point 3, is having a clear differentiator between KPIs and OKRs and what that means. So OKR is an objective and key result. In summary, OKRs are an effective goal setting and leadership tool for communicating what you want to accomplish and what milestones you want to meet in order to accomplish it. I think the key ones here are like a KPI, something more static, it's set in stone. You can't really move it for the year, where OKRs you revisit every quarter, as an example. Because we try and be as agile as possible, we're reviewing our OKRs every month and what are the key results to achieve it. So I'll go through some examples of our objectives for awareness, consideration, acquisition, and advocacy. So what that means for us, and then you can obviously draw some parallels and start trying to understand what that could mean for you, for your business, or for your clients. Okay, so what is Measurebyte? What do we want to achieve, right? So we've got this OKR sort of framework that we work off with, this methodology. And you would have seen the measurement framework last week. And you'll know that if you heard last week's session, we focus on awareness, consideration, acquisition, and advocacy. So what is an objective for us at the awareness stage, right? So for us, it's brand mentions. That's something that we know that we can measure. Even if it's manual, we can still measure it. And there are going to be certain key results. So a key result here is, for us, LinkedIn followers. Now you might say, well, that's a vanity metric. It is, but paired with some other metrics that can counter that or keep it honest, it's quite an important metric that we need to track. So if you have a certain amount of followers, we need to know how many earned impressions or organic impressions we're getting off that, how many video views we're getting off that, and then on YouTube, which is more of a long-term strategy. We're not seeing big results just yet off YouTube, but we're still small. But already I can say that we've had international inquiries, but I don't say we're not doing it well. I think we can do a lot better. We're also tracking subscribers, video views, and average watch rate. Again, there's a counter metric. Subscribers, you might say, is a vanity metric. Video views and average watch rate are those counter metrics to keep it honest, right? So you could have thousands of subscribers, but video views and average watch rate might be low. Or video views might be high, but average watch rate is low. So you have to keep these counter metrics in place to ensure that you're going to achieve your objective of brand mentions. Because we know that if we can do these things right, more people are going to start talking about us in the media, etc. And obviously there are things that we can also stimulate the brand mentions. Like what can we do to push that? And I'll get to that a little later. The other one is, so we have objectives and key results. So to achieve these key results, we also need to focus on implementation, right? So it's one thing having an objective, and it's another thing knowing that we need to achieve certain results. Ultimately, there's still work that needs to be done, right? So we look at and we measure the inputs. So how many page posts are we posting? Me personally, as a leader in the business, a thought leader in the industry, how many posts am I publishing? How many short videos are we publishing? How many long videos are we publishing, like long form content? How many Q&A sessions and webinar sessions like this are we doing? And we are getting better at it. Hence, this is the second session. We tried to do it, or we wanted to do it last year, but just never had a chance. And then blog posts. How many blog posts are we publishing per month? And we track all this. So these are measurable inputs. So that was awareness. Now we look at consideration, right? So One would assume if we're doing awareness right, then the objective for consideration becomes new engaged users. So how many people are arriving on our website? And we use Google Analytics for that. Okay, so if we're doing awareness right, if we're reaching our objectives, if we're doing the key results, if we're managing and monitoring our inputs and we're doing it well, we are going to get new engaged users. Again, metrics that matter. You can start seeing how they start coming together. There are going to be certain key results needed to get to new engaged users. So brand search impressions, we want to monitor that. How many people are actually searching Measurebyte in Google? And we obviously use Search Console for that. And then the counter to that is non-brand search impressions. So anything but Measurebyte, what is being searched for and how much. And for us, there's a big opportunity there, and we're not really taking advantage of that like we should, and it'll come through in the reporting. Then social traffic and social click-through rates. Again, important metrics to be able to measure intent. So now you've got the awareness, you're pushing content out. When you're publishing the content, what is the intent to go and actually explore more? Obviously, back to our website. So intent, again, is quite a big thing at a consideration phase. Not necessarily not ready to submit a form or inquire. They're just looking, but it's still an important metric. Okay, so the fourth piece to this is the data visualization side. So what you have, two questions that we want to ask is, are we on target? So you can start seeing now how OKRs using RAG, red, amber, and green. You have objectives at the top, and then you have key results at the bottom. We only have one objective per journey. So at awareness, we have one objective. For consideration, we have one objective, but we have multiple key results to drive that objective. So you can see, starting to see, I wanted to just put this a visual of this wireframe here, because you can start seeing the clarity that it gives you when wanting to make decisions. So are we on target? And then where are we getting or not getting traction, and why? So we'll have red, amber, green followed with a trend line. So is there growth? Is it not going up? What's that number really doing? It kind of gives us insight into traction. So we can ask the question, why? Okay, so like I said right up front, I'm going to share a visualization that you would see in this area of the organization. And here's the first one. So awareness, like I said, we want to be able to measure awareness, and we have the objective right at top. So we want to monitor how many brand mentions we are getting. You can see we have targets. So as that number would grow, it would go into green, one hopes. We have amount invested. We don't have big budgets. We're a startup, so this is like software costs, but we're investing into it. And then you have our followers, and earned impressions, which is that organic impressions of our content, video views, subscribers, or what I said earlier. And they're your inputs. So we're monitoring that as well. And we've got targets. Everything is driven by a target. Everything is going to either be red, amber, or green. And we learn, as we get better at this, we'll learn what a good target is. So you can start seeing maybe we are underperforming in a specific area and we need to be better at it, or maybe the targets are too low and we actually need to improve on that. I've highlighted this little magnifying glass. This is part one. There's going to be a part two and potentially a part three, depends how many questions we get off this. So today I'm not going into that detail. I'm just showing you top line. I think part two or part three, how we can get into the detail. So if I click on this, you'll see what is causing these little jumps in the graph. Because that's really answering the what's getting traction and why, or if not, why. So this is awareness. Now, little things here that obviously we need to make decisions. So you can see we're not getting enough brand mentions. We're still getting out the gates. It is January. Maybe that's why, but I don't think that's a good enough reason. Earned impressions, you can see, yes, January, we came off a holiday. Nothing happening there. Nothing happening here with video views. Nothing happening there. And you can see we're really weak publishing short and long form videos. We're good at attending these webinars and also hosting these webinars, but ultimately they still need to be edited and cut down and published. So you can start seeing there's some issues here, right? There's some weaknesses in our execution. So the decisions to be made one we've identified and we'll start in February is hire a PR consultancy. I think that's critical to help us get the message across, create that awareness of our category. And we need to also not only exist inside LinkedIn, but in other platforms. We also need to hire, which we haven't yet, freelance video editor. You can see how transparent I'm being here. Like, I'm really wanting to just show you our day-to-day, how we make decisions, because I think it's critical. That's how we're going to learn together. Then we move into consideration. So you can start seeing that there's no investment into consideration. And I'll get to that because I think that's not a good sign. I see there has been a question, comment. Chris says, no, would you say these metrics, KPIs, inputs are relevant to most businesses, or are they specific? Chris, I would say that this is 70% there, the measurement framework. I'd say there are going to be nuances based on the type of business, but I'd like to think, and from experience, that this will get you about 70% of the way. And then, yes, PR is invaluable. I think it's critical. And on the PR piece, what I would like to start doing is actually measuring the impact of PR to this. Now, if you can layer a PR strategy on top of this, you can start seeing where traffic is coming from, because you can see on my consideration, the inputs is actually I need to get external links. So when we are on other websites, Business Day, wherever, BizNews, are people coming back to the website via wherever we've been mentioned? All right, because it's going to drive up new engaged users, it's going to drive that. So you can see that's a key input that we need to try and control to some extent. Now, you can see brand search impressions, non-brand. As you can see, we're doing really well. I think this target's too low and with minimal input. I think there's an opportunity there, which I'll get to. You can see social traffic increased there and it's flattened out. And then click-through rate. So when we have posted as a business, what is that click-through rate? So we've got a fairly good, but also we've got a good click-through rate, but in saying that, we've also got a smallish audience of 288 followers in LinkedIn. Like, if that was 1,000, can we still achieve that? And that remains to be seen. Okay, so like I said, there's no investment here. That's a problem. We are achieving new engaged users, which is great. Now, what I'm starting to see here is that there's correlations. So this little jump in terms of brand, and this is probably the most important metric that we look at. It's the number one metric I look at. I obsess about it. I want to know how many times Measurebyte has been searched for in Google. I want to know why there's a little climb over there, like what produced that. And if I go back to the data and the times that we published and what we've done during that period, it actually comes down to video. And that's why I am really, I guess, obsessed, those who know me, about attention metrics and video and how that impacts awareness and the demand side of building a brand or that category. So when we publish videos, and I don't have an example here, unfortunately, but last year, I've got a few of these examples, but last year I could see it in November, early December, how video content, when published, increases brand search. We also did a webinar on Friday to quite a biggish audience. And then non-brand, so that is looking at obviously anything but Measurebyte, and the top term there is omni-channel measurement, which is great to see. It's a global audience searching for that and local, but a lot of it's coming from international. And yeah, I'll get to that point a little later. Job post resulted in that. There's no real business value or direct business value to that in terms of leads or sales, but it's interesting nonetheless that when you post on LinkedIn around jobs, that's a type of impact that you can get. And there's a concern around blog posts, like not enough blog posts being published, and updating landing pages. So you can see a lot of things need to be done to improve on this. So we're behind in brand search. We're doing well with non-brand, but I know there's a lot of opportunity. So the reality is, if I go back, so I say that we need to invest in SEO, but not overinvest. And that's because of this. We're doing really well organically on certain keywords, but we're not updating or even generating enough content, written content, to take care of this consideration phase. How I see it is video is the driver for demand gen, top of funnel, that awareness, those attention metrics. And then the written content, the SEO side of it, is what's going to drive the consideration side. So I look at SEO metrics for consideration. Also because there's a lot of, the intent here is so strong. It might take longer to convert, but you want to get more people who are in your category, looking for your category, onto your website. So now we need to measure those inputs. So going into February, what is our one thing for awareness? We need to produce videos, and we need to get better at editing the content. So we will be tracking that. So videos produced. Again, those counter metrics, views and watch time monitored is critical. Impact on the videos have on brand search. So I'll continue to monitor that brand search every time we publish video content. What is happening to brand in Google? And for consideration, we need to look at blog posts being published. So again, earned search impressions, received, but it's one thing getting an impression inside Google. It's another thing getting a session off a search. So user sessions received is critical. Average time on the blog post, again, a counter metric, because one could say that these are vanity. Average time on a blog post shows the quality of the content, and then referral traffic to websites. So that could also speak to the PR piece. So are we getting traffic back to our website of the content that we are producing? And again, everything has a red, amber, green. Everything runs off red, amber, green to ensure that we're on target. And that's it. If there are any comments, questions, now's the time to shout. Like I said, this will be published and shared with our community, but I would like to go deeper. I think it's just about time. I don't like going over 30 minutes, but if this is something that interests you, then we can always go deeper into more detail. If you have a question, you can go off mute and ask. Okay, I started working for a small company and my focus is the website and SEM. Well, I hope this type of reporting helps you, because this can be done for small to the biggest enterprises in the world. I don't think this shouldn't limit you by size of company. Cool, perfect. There'll be more to come. So I don't have a topic for next week. So if there are any suggestions, please shout. I have a few ideas, but we'll continue to get better and deeper into this type of information. Cool. Thanks everyone. Enjoy your day.